So I think it's time to talk about the Google Pixel 4a. For those of you in the market for a compact smartphone that's feature-packed and that won't break the bank, the Google Pixel 4a should definitely be on your radar. So here in 2023, here's my full review of the Google Pixel 4a. So the Pixel 4a isn't going to win any design awards in 2023, but to be fair, in 2020 it didn't either. It's got an all-plastic unibody design in this nice matte black finish called Just Black. Upon release of the Pixel 4a, this was the only colour option, but now there's also a barely blue colour as well. I really like the minimalistic look of the Pixel 4a. It's really nice and compact in the hand, which is refreshing in a world of giant smartphones. There's a fingerprint sensor on the back, which is fast and responsive, single firing speaker and a charging port at the bottom, and a rarely seen headphone jack at the top for the old school folk that still use wired headphones. And in the top corner is a single 12 megapixel camera and an LED flash, which I'll talk more about in a bit. And on the right are the volume buttons, and definitely the most clicky power button I've ever used, except when I put on this case that I bought, then it's the least clicky. It's also a very pale mint green button, which is pretty cool too. So yes, overall the design of the phone is really bland, but to be honest, I actually do quite like it. And the display is pretty basic too. It's a 5.8 inch 1080p 60Hz display, and it's fine. And being such a small display at 1080p gives it almost 450 pixels per inch, so it's sharp and contrasty too. But if you're used to 90 or 120Hz displays, of course, you'll immediately notice the difference. So I have my iPhone 14 Plus and I regularly frequent the Huawei P30 Pro, both of which have 60Hz displays, so it's not a big deal for me. But the display is pretty bright as well. It maxes out at about 800 nits, so it's very usable in daylight. And thankfully, Google redid the design of the display from the Pixel 4s by shrinking the top bezel down to just a punch hole cutout for the selfie camera. You do lose the advanced face unlocking, or any for that matter, but for that little extra bit of screen real estate, it's a great move. So with the design of the Pixel 4a out of the way, what's it actually like to use daily? Well, I've been using it on and off for a few weeks, and to be honest, it's been fine. It's been absolutely fine. As with any Pixel phone, the software is squeaky clean. You've got the brand new Android 13 and all its features, which there are plenty of videos on Android 13 on YouTube if you want to know all these features. Overall use is fine. It's running the Snapdragon 730G, which was a modest upgrade over the 670 found in the 3A. So when I say everyday use has been fine, it does everything pretty well. It opens apps quickly. Everyday scrolling is absolutely fine. There's no stutters or anything like that. So yeah, like I said, it's absolutely fine. And the 730G, even when it came out, wasn't built for a major performance boost in mind. It was built for efficiency. There's also 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of non-expandable UFS 2.1 storage, and this is the only configuration. So the efficiency is where the Pixel 4a does really, really well. It packs a small 3140 mAh battery, so of course small phone, small battery. But with that 60Hz display that is only 5.8 inches, it is a really efficient chip, and the battery life is really, really great on the Pixel 4a. Of course, if you're a really heavy user, you probably still won't get through a full day with the phone, but I'm a light to moderate user, I would class myself as, when I'm using all my phones, and I absolutely got through a full day. It was about 3 hours of screen on time, so of course not record-breaking numbers, but it was absolutely fine for my daily use. So lastly, let's talk about the single 12 megapixel camera on the back of the Pixel 4a. And for the longest time, Google had been using the same 12 megapixel camera on the back of all of their smartphones until it had a rehaul with the 6 and 6 Pro. So hardware wise, of course, the Google Pixel 4a is behind the competition, but it's always been Google's computational photography that made their cameras so good, and that opinion kind of irrelevant. This is also optically stabilized for good low light photography shots and good on video as well. As to be expected, the Pixel 4a produces similar shots to other Pixel phones around that time. Plenty of detail, natural colour and a nice contrasty look to them. Google also favours a sharper look to some of the photos, which I do like, and there's also a 2x crop toggle on the screen so you can quickly punch in a bit if you need to, and it doesn't do a huge amount to the quality of the photo. But one thing to note is the Pixel 4a doesn't have the dedicated image signal processor of the Pixel 4 and 4 XL, so processing power is all done by the Snapdragon 730G, and it does take a little longer. But overall photo quality is really good, and despite having a single camera, Google processing does a great job in portrait shots with good subject separation with nice blurred backgrounds. And there's also a Google Night Sight mode that helps to brighten photos in low light, and also astrophotography mode that can be used with a tripod for long exposure shots of the stars. And video can be shot up to 4K at 30 FPS, and this is pretty good too, but certainly not its strongest area. That definitely belongs to the photos. And the 8 megapixel selfie camera takes much better photos than the resolution would suggest, again thanks to Google's image processing, and like the main camera, portrait mode does a good job of separating the subject from the background for high quality portrait photos. And another thing that the camera app does have, which I think is really cool, is it's got 2 toggles on the main screen that lets you adjust the highlights and the shadows prior to taking the photo, so you can get a really great preview of what the photo is going to look like before you've even taken the photo. So that's something that I think is really cool. It's a nice feature to have, and one that I would like to see on other smartphones. So that's my look at the Google Pixel 4a in 2023. Now, if you can get the phone at a good enough price, I picked this up for about 140 quid. I would 100% with great confidence recommend buying this phone. It's got a really great camera, nice display, really good battery life, a minimalistic design if you're into that. Of course, the performance is getting a little bit dated, but if you're not a heavy user, it will be absolutely fine, as it has been for me, so I can't really complain when it comes to the performance. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Google Pixel 4a. Is it a phone that you would consider buying? Let me know in the comments, and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and drop a like as well, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video.